Good morning to Dr. Pauline and my group mates. We are from group 5. I am Asmara Anak Tutong, 74740. Our topic in this project is climate change, the flooding affected at Kuala Lumpur. So I will briefly explain our introduction. Climate change, that in this sociology of development, the theory that we have choose is globalization and modernization. Globalization is the whole of the universalization and particularism. Global climate change, as it is one of the refer to as an example of the whole universalization that transcends globalization, which is ozone layer, biodiversity, sustainable development, pollution, and acid rain are all topics that covered by the globalization. As we know, according to Kessel in 1997, the environmental movement is the problem environmental and allied groups. As a result, climate change may be studied in the context of globalization. So that is the reason why we choose globalization theory in the climate change. The reason why we relate this theory of globalization with the flooding, because rain is one of the difficulty that might be linked to the environmental changes in this climate shift to globalization. The result in flood in certain area. Flooding is a natural phenomenon which is caused by excess of water in that area that is not commanded by a network of drains, resulting in destructive inundations. As a proof, in Malaysia, flooding happened at Klang Sentosa, Selangor, which is flooding is common in Selangor. On the other hand, the reason why we choose theory of modernization in this climate change of flooding, because modernization is referred to the ecology modernization. This meaning of ecology of modernization is seeks to update modernization by including the environmental such as a clean air and water. Modernization is also referred to the urbanization because most of the industry, factories can cause more garbage. It will block the drain which can cause to the flooding. As a proof, at Klang Selangor, in metropolitan setting, the drainage purpose as it flows by the immersive surface water, use of water supply, and aquatic life. So here, garbage shown improper has the ability to impede water flow in an area drain system. So that is the reason why we relate these two theories in climate change or flooding. So this is our introduction. Thank you.
Next, methodology. Methodological approach that we use is in order to provide answers to the research question that we given. We made the decision to make use of qualitative data in our assessment. The purpose of this project was to gain a contextual understanding of how the ideas of modernization and globalization might be used to explain the views that are held in common by a group of individuals.
So, the theory of modernization proposed that all countries follow a similar path of development from traditional to modern society. It is assumed that with all some assistance, traditional countries can evolve into contemporary countries in the same way as today's modern countries developed in the first place. Modernization proposition is a sociological approach that seeks to understand the variable that drives the modernization process and social development. In sociology, modernization refers to the transition from traditional pastoral agrarian societies to temporal civic artificial societies. The modernization proposition surfaced in the 1950s as an explanation for the development of artificial societies in North America and Western Europe.
Next is the merits of modernization. Natural resources such as wood, water, and oil are often processed in modernized society, and skyscrapers and factories began to transform the landscape. Environmental problems such as climate change are believed to be the result of industrial development and production. Refineries and other plants related to industrial processes contribute to air pollution, water pollution, flash flood, and others. However, in many poorer countries, the discovery of oil and the adoption of new technologies is welcome for the financial opportunities it presents. The cost of living in other countries also translates into lower wages. As new technologies are introduced to developing countries, processes can be streamlined and made less expensive and more accessible to the mass population.
So I will be explaining the demerits of modernization. So we are focusing on flooding issue that is happening in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and because the advancement of globalization, our nation is under pressure to succeed by accelerating national development. To conduct a business with foreign nation, our nation requires the area, and we have to do deforestation to make a way for the construction of high technology regions. Um, if the incident is not properly controlled, it will result a flash flood in the river and also causing disruption to the drainage system. We also know that globalization also related to increasing rapid development, but if this thing is not being planned properly, it will cost us in the long run. So technological development requires a lot of land and raw materials to create technology that is very competitive with other countries. But the more areas are open, the more trees are being cutting down, the climate change will occur because of the temperature is increasing. So as we all know, Malaysia is one of the nations with average annual rainfall that is relatively high. To avoid a flash flood, we need to imperative to refrain from broad lodging. As we know, Kuala Lumpur must grow swiftly in order to serve a good hub in many different activities. But in order for us to achieve that, we need to do a proper planning that will impact the state in the future.
I'm Esti Ignatius. My metric number is 74744. I'm going to explain the perspective of globalization and the merits of globalization. Perspective globalization towards the issue. The first one is, how do the flood problem and the globalization threat relate to one another? As globalization intensifies, our country is under pressure to prosper through quickening national growth. Our country needs facility or sites with cutting-edge technology to conduct commerce with other countries. So, in order to make room for the development of high-tech district, deforestation is necessary. If this occurrence is not appropriately handled, it can cause drainage system problem and river flash flood. The second one is, in location impacted by the increasingly major development, globalization brings about climate change. To produce technology that is competitive with that of other nations, large amount of land and raw materials are needed. Climate change will happen because of the rising temperature when more and more space is freed up, for instance by removing forests. Furthermore, the earth will become more settled, and when it rains in the cleared area, the soil will disintegrate more quickly since there will be no tree roots to hold it down. Flash flooding in adjacent rivers might result from this. Merits for globalization. Number one, because there is a good relationship between one's own country and other countries, the country may obtain a lot of international aid. We can discuss our challenge with others and learn from their experience with issues related to climate change by building strong relationship with other nations in the process of globalization. The second one is the process of globalization also indirectly helps the nation economies. As is generally known, Malaysia works with a number of countries to develop as a country and raise its level of economic competition on the world arena. National development will be ensured if the country's economic activities can be managed through improved with aid from other nations. That's all from me.
In our project regarding about the climate change, the flooding affected at Kuala Lumpur got the demerits of globalization of the theories. The reason is because the drawback to this globalization nation is raises the possibility of unfavorable changes in our nation. Climate change is the causes of this issue and the one that has chosen to the flood problem. When dramatic changes and the development are not under control of the relevant parties, globalization will contribute to climate change in Malaysia. The development on it has on come to be one of the factors that could potentially harm the environment. This is according to the Dovrange in 2005, and this development indirectly disrupt the ecology system in our nation. So this is the demerits globalization in climate change of flooding that affected at Kuala Lumpur. Thank you.